Hi friends, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Retroverse. Today we're looking at the Atari XE game system. That's the XEGS. That's a console that came out after the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was designed to compete with the NES, but it came out before the proper 16-bit era. In the Atari lineup of products, it came out after the 7800 Pro system, but before the Atari Jaguar. And so this is not a very well-known console, and for good reason. It was designed to compete with old games against the NES, which was the hot item. So it really didn't fare all that well, and so it wasn't on the market long. So I didn't even know this thing existed until sometime around the mid-2000s when I got this one on eBay. The problem with it is the cartridge port's really flaky. You would actually have to take out the cartridge and reseat it several times in order to get it to play. If you bump the console or hit the start button a little too hard, the game could lock up. And so I really wanted to set out and see if I could fix that. It should be a really simple repair. And so I actually filmed this video a couple months ago before I was using my tripod here, and I used my smartphone to record the video. So it's another one of those videos. It's a little wobbly, but please be patient with it. I think it's a pretty cool video to watch. So it's a little over half an hour, and you'll see all the troubleshooting steps I took to kind of go through this console and get it back to operation. So without any further ado, let's take a look and see how things turned out. I am actually working on a little project today. I know I don't have quite the workshop all set up yet, but that's okay. I am motivated to look into what might be hopefully a simple repair. This, which has got some bugs on it, is actually an Atari XE game system. Bought it on eBay several years ago. You can see where the manuals were, but I actually got it just like this. No outer box, no manual. But figured we'd do a little unboxing here. Pallet wrap or saran wrap or something there to keep the styrofoam layers together. Now, when I last played this, it worked, but the cartridge port was really, really flaky. Now this is, sure you can see all kinds of other videos on it as far as what it consists of. You know, you have an Atari 2600 style joystick, but as you can see it's got a gray casing. This is just it's a weird game system that came out post Nintendo era, based on the Atari 65 XE hardware. And so what I have here is this one, and I think I mentioned there a second ago that the cartridge port is very flaky on it when I last used it. So here I've got the power supply, got some AV cables. We'll move this out of the way. Okay, so I thought this had missile command built in, so maybe to select. Look at me, I'm going to type load as if that's going to help me here. So, let's see, the help button doesn't do anything, the option button. Now, however, I can hold the option button, that's an Atari type of thing, and turn it on. Doesn't seem to make a difference on this. Reset does seem to work. And I do at least have this. So, okay, so that is, it's working. So it does work as an actual computer without a cartridge installed. For some reason I was thinking that it had missile command built in. I'm trying all the different things with the, maybe what it is, I have to unplug the keyboard? What happens if I unplug the keyboard and just use it as the console by itself? So I'm taking the keyboard plug out, hit reset, and it still comes up just ready. Okay, so obviously I have to dig out my cartridges. Okay, I am back. So I dug out my Atari cartridges. Most of these are VCS 2600 cartridges. some Pro System 7800 cartridges, and here's my 400, 800 XE cartridges. This is hilarious that we have basic, which is of course already built in, but what the hey. Let me set these down. And let's try it. Turn this off. Just gonna try basic just for the heck of it. Turn it on and oh look, I've got basic. Isn't that nice? So let's try something like, well, Star Raiders is right here. Plug in the cartridge, turn it on. Well, it actually works. Star Raiders. Hit start. And yes, the joystick does work. Wow, the sound sounds horrible. As you can see, plays the XE game. Rare. The XE does play the old Atari 400, 800 cartridges. So, now let's see if I just wiggle the cartridge port. Interestingly enough, it's working. So, let's try another one. Oh, Hubert. Let's see what happens with Hubert. And turn it on. And Hubert. Okay, cool. Oh! We just got to lock up. Reset. I hit start. The picture really looks I probably need to replace the capacitors in this monitor like I do with my arcade units. Oh, I got lucky. Alright, so I'm going to wiggle the cartridge just a little bit. And you can see it's a very touchy cartridge port. It's possible it could be dirty connectors, but I've cleaned these cartridges pretty well back when I last had it on. So let's see what else we have in here. Pitfall. Turn it on, and we have nada. Reset. So yeah, this is... Oh, well, what's that? That's kind of interesting. Self-test. Let's try resetting again. Interesting. Pitfall does a self-test. Now, what I found, maybe it's kind of hard to tell. These look like they could be pretty bad contacts. Get some of the oxidation off of there. We can see a little bit of dirt there. And we have nada. We have the power light. So we'll just kind of reseat the cartridge. See, this is very reminiscent to what sort of problems I was having with the system before. Even cleaning the cartridges, the cartridge port is just really touchy. I was thinking I would try to take it apart, but I might just take the stem here of this swab and put some fine grit sandpaper on it and run it down in the cartridge port to see if we can improve the ability. Ooh, how you like that? Well, we see it's working. If I wiggle the cartridge a little bit, we can see it just doesn't have a very good connection. So yeah, the cartridge port on this unit is definitely a bit touchy, even with a well-cleaned cartridge. Alright, so with that, we've got missile command. We jiggle the cartridge. Yep, it's still pretty touchy. Let's try Robotron just for giggles and grins. Again, touch the cartridge. Yeah, it locks up pretty readily. Load runner. This is the one I really wanted to look at here. So let's see. The cartridge pins are very clean on this. But I remember always having the touchiest cartridge port on this game in particular. Yeah. So there it is. We'll just kind of wiggle the cartridge and take it in and out. Huh, came up on the second time. How about that? Because if I just wiggle it just a little bit, you can see the game readily locks up. So it's not getting a good connection down on the cartridge. So let's try, see if this can, yeah, that actually kind of, yeah, fits down in there snugly. So I'm going to kind of use the end of this swab. I don't think it'll fit that way. Weird, it actually does fit. Huh. So in that case, what I'll do maybe is I will take some denatured alcohol and just get this kind of moist. Turn it over to the other side. It's, again, hard to do this with just one hand, but it's all right. And we'll just kind of get this dampened. There we go. And I'm going to just, it's off. Flick the power switch up here on the power strip just in case. And I'll just kind of work it down in there. Work it down in there once again. Ooh, there we go. Now it's working in good. That actually is quite a snug fit. I hope it doesn't bend the pins. Ooh, wow. That was a little bit of a backfire. Yeah, now I've got crap down on my cartridge port. Note to self, don't do that. So, I guess what I shall do is take my little, again, just unplug the power supply just in case. Just to get some of this dirt and crap out of there. Shredded my little cleaning swab pretty well. Overall, I don't think it left a whole lot of residue in there, just a couple little pieces of grit. So I'm going to take some fine sandpaper and see if I can do a better job with this. Be right back. Okay, so we've got some regular old duster, which I can... Oh yeah, wow, there's all kinds of that velvety crap coming out of there now. Well, that'll keep me from putting any of that velvety stuff down in the cartridge port or cramming it down in there. So I'm going to take the swab that I had, and I'm going to wrap some of this paper around it. Be right back. Okay, I didn't do a whole lot. I'm just cut some a little strip of that 1200 grit sandpaper, and I've got it wrapped around the end. The thickness of the swab stick is actually pretty close to the thickness of a cartridge, and it seems to fit in pretty well. So I'm just going to stick it down in there just like so and just work it in and out. Yeah, it seems to be getting some crud off of the off of there. This is obviously not really designed for this use, so I'm going to have to kind of put this down and just work this in and out. I'll be right back. Okay, I did some cleaning there. I'm going to plug back in the power right here. I turn back on the power. I'm going to put Pitfall in as a test. Turn it on. Watch what happens. I have a green light and nothing. Reset. So we'll reseat the cartridge. Okay, we at least have pitfall. Yeah, but again, if I touch the cartridge, it immediately just locks up. So I've taken the back off of the XEGS and I'm about to turn it over and see what we have. Okay, so it's got a nice little cage all around. Okay, after bending all the little tabs out of the way, I was able to take the top of the RF shield off. And what we have is the Revision A XE system. We have a power button, power LED. You have the 4 front panel switches, 2 joystick ports. We have the keyboard port. On the back, we have the disk drive port and power port, RF modulator box and switch for channel 3-4, audio and video. That's basically it. Okay, I very carefully removed the bottom RF shield and set it up out of the way, and from the bottom I was able to get to the tabs that connect to the cartridge port cover, and so that's there. And much like I expected, it is a pretty standard card edge connector here. We can see down inside, they don't look too bad. And so what I'd like to do is get an idea if it's the pins or if it's perhaps a bad solder joint. Now, just a quick visual inspection of the cartridge pins. They look pretty good. But it's hard to tell. There could be cold solder joint on it. Okay, so what I've done is I took the basic cartridge, which I figured is the most able to be replaced, out of its casing. I know the circuit board is the right thickness here, and so I've cut a piece of sandpaper, 1200 grit, to an appropriate size. And so what I can do then is work this in and out a few times. So I'm going to take time to do that, and we'll see what happens. Okay, well, I figure while I've got it out here and I've got my pan of ice sitting out here, I'm going to actually take the time to actually hit all these pins with some with a hot soldering iron tip. Let me see, I didn't put water in my sponge, so I suppose I should do that. There we go. Watch that sponge expand nicely. I love it. All right, so unfortunately, I'm not going to really be able to do this, I think, with one hand. Normally, I would go back and hit it with just a little bit of TLC here. They really don't seem to have a whole lot of solder on those connections. But I'm able to get it to melt a little bit. So let me go back and take some good old solder and hit these joints. I just don't know for sure if they're using 6040 on technology this old, or if it is new enough to be lead-free solder, which is not really my idea of fun. So I'm going to work on this a little bit and we'll be back. Okay, well, what I've done here is I went back underneath the cartridge port and I heated up all the joints. There we go. And I put a little more 6040 solder on there. Seems to mix fine with what's on there. Just thickened up the joints a little bit. They were very thin before. And so I suspect that might have had some stuff. You can definitely see there's definitely much better formed. I went back and also cleaned off the flux that I left behind on the board here. There was some other place down here where there was some flux, I guess from the factory, maybe from a prior repair, who knows. But I took the opportunity to clean that up as well. And I'll probably, yeah, there's still some stuff here. So what I typically do is I use the denatured alcohol, just the stuff you get at Home Depot. You can see the flux left that I cleaned from the other spot there a little while ago. I usually use a cotton swab, although you got to be careful not to leave lint. And you can kind of see the denatured alcohol works pretty well at removing flux. And you can see it comes right off. So it's just a matter of cleanliness. I think also it's possible the flux might cause connections to degrade over time, is what some people think. I personally haven't seen that happen, but I believe in good clean work. Let's see here. And then if you need, I just take a soft nylon, not super soft, but a firm bristle nylon brush, and do a little scrub if I need to, but this one looks pretty good. Anyway, so that's one little thing. Just doing a little visual inspection of the rest of the board. And this also, coincidentally, is the first time I've used my Panavice. Oh, I love that thing. That is awesome. So it holds the board well in place so I can work on it, and it has it at a nice comfortable angle. I'm not going to try to take this off single-handedly because I don't want to drop the board on the desk, but it usually doesn't come off that difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back on the workbench, hook it up to power, and see if the cartridge port behaves any better. Okay, well, I've got the game running, Load Runner, which was one of the ones from before. Hooked up a joystick, and we'll see here. Oh, it still locks up when I just barely wiggle it. I believe this last one's reset. So let's try one more time here. And if I can get the... Whoops. All right. So far I've still got movement and a wiggle. It is behaving better. Oh, no. Hold on. I don't know what behaved so bad before. The game is continuing to run. Wow. Look at that. I may have actually... Heck, I'm wiggling the crap out of that thing. Oh, wait, nope. It's still running. So I kind of push the cartridge down. Oh, wait, I got it to finally lock up again. Overall, though, I'd say that's a big improvement compared to what it was. Well, see, it locked up there. I guess it really just kind of depends. It might be how it's horizontally shifted in the cartridge port. But still, putting it in, it's pretty consistently coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this booger and see what I can do. Snap that back on real quick. So now we have the cartridge thing. Turn it on. Comes right up to the game. Yeah, I believe what the problem must have been is a little bit of a short in the Yeah, and see right now I'm wiggling it, and the game is continuing to run just fine. And I could not do that before. So yeah, I think it must have been a little bit of a cold solder joint. Happy to see it's working. Okay, I've put the RF shield back on. One of the things, because I don't want these little metal tabs to get fatigued if I ever take it apart again, I did not tighten them all down. I basically tightened down these two on the side and these three on the side and one here, and that's all I did. And it's actually staying pretty well secure with that. I don't mind, because the case will actually keep the rest of this back together again. And so, let me pick this up, set it out of the way, set the bottom casing here, and, well, gotta make sure I don't bend that LED out of the way a little bit. It's going to have to fit. That's going to be the tricky part, is getting the LED to fit back into that square hole there behind the start button. So I've just now moved it. Crap. Alright. That's just going to be a little tricky to get in there right. So let me see if I can straighten that back up, because I got fat fingered and made the LED bend a little bit. That looks better. Okay. So let's see. And there we go. I think it's pretty close. We'll see. Let's see if I can get it lined up. I'm going to put the camera down to do this. Well, as it turns out, the XEGS really reassembles better by putting the top, or the PCB cage, or the RF shield, I guess I should say, into the bottom of the casing first, because it has to go in a little bit of an angle to let these ports on the back line up correctly. If you just kind of drop it in or try to put it onto the front face first, that's what causes it. It turns out this LED light sits just below, so actually as long as you get it somewhat reasonably close, it shouldn't be too bad at all to line up. And so with that, it actually just fits on real gentle-like. I will go ahead and repower it up here, so ever so carefully laid out. Okay, so turning it on without a cartridge. Oh, what the hell? Now we're getting missile command. That's what I was expecting before. Duh! Wonder why it came up in missile command now. Anyway, yeah, it's supposed to have missile command built in when you have no cartridge. We hit start. Maybe it's because I don't have the keyboard connected now. I don't know. But if you think about it, it kind of makes the missile command cartridge that I have for this a little bit useless, because it's basically the same game. Alright, so I'm going to take this off, slap on load runner, hit the power button, comes right up to load runner. I've got my little LED is lined up correctly. Hit the reset button. Good to go. Option button doesn't do anything. Select button. Oh, cool, it's got a play editor. I don't know if that actually means a level editor or not. So yeah, I can do this and just, let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. I can go all the way up to... Wow, is there that many levels in... Is it 151 levels in Load Runner? Hit start. Level 151. There it is. Oh, well, who'd have thought? So anyway, that doesn't look like 151. Looks like level 1. Wiggle the cartridge. It still works just fine. Look at it. Wow. That cartridge port is stable now. Let's try it with Pitfall, which was, as you recall, a little bit flaky before. Oh, look at that. Oh, wiggle the cartridge a little bit. So I guess it still really depends on how well the cartridge is cleaned. Well, that kind of sucks. Wow. So I guess it's still not perfect, but yeah, that cartridge was a little on the dirty, gritty side. What I may do is I pulled out my magic erasers here. I might take magic eraser and maybe a little bit of this and just slightly sand the contacts on Pitfall. We'll give it a try and see. Okay, we still have Missile Command. Pitfall is sanded a little bit. Comes up, but still if I just touch, well, not doing too bad tapping the cartridge, but if I wiggle the cartridge, it does wig out a little bit. And again, that just might be just this cartridge is loopy. We'll get a better idea here. Let's try one-on-one, which looks reasonably clean. Comes right up. Again, I touched the cartridge. Yeah, so it's not perfect. But I mean, what cartridge system is? Oh, look at that. Ha! That's cool. Reset. All right. So, ha! You see that? It accused me of hacking. What the hell? All right. So that looks pretty cool. Let's try good old Robotron 2084. Robotron 2084. Let's hit the button to start it up. Wiggle the cartridge a little bit. Yeah. So we can still get some bad behavior by wiggling the cartridge. But at least when I first put the cartridge in, it is working on the first try rather than trying to reseat it several times. So we'll try kicks here. So here we're changing our level of... Huh. That doesn't look like kicks for some reason. Yep, that's kicks. I just figured it would have more of an attract mode. See how when I give a little cartridge a little wiggle in it? Yeah, so I'll probably just have my standards a little too high. So long as I can put the game in, hit it, and it comes right up. In this case, pole position. Then I should be happy with that. So, the Atari XE game system cartridge port repair. I'm going to call this one a success. The reason for that is you don't have to seat and reseat the cartridges in order to get them to actually work or boot up. If you bump the console, hit the start button, or even tap the cartridge normally stays playing without any problems, and it did not do that before. The slightest nudge of the system would cause it to lock up. So that's fixed. Now, wiggle the cartridge, yeah, still get it to lock up, but what cartridge system doesn't do that? You can do that to your NES, and it's going to lock up. You can bump your NES, it's going to lock up. So it's not outside of the spec for the system. I did notice, however, that some of the third-party cartridges, such as the Activision or the Parker Brothers cartridges, like Qbert or Pitfall, they tend to work a little more touchy. And I believe a lot of the reason for that is that there's no dust protector on them. The cartridge contacts are not really gold-plated, and so they tend to tarnish easier. And also, it might just be that the circuit boards themselves are just a tiny bit thinner than the cartridges produced by Atari. And so those are just all theories. I don't have any proof on any of those, but that's, you know, pretty much their reasonable conjecture there. So with that, I'm going to call this a finished project for now. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, please subscribe, and please drop me a comment below. Let me know how I'm doing. And hope you have a great day. This has been Sean's Retroverse.